31 teams down and the top club in the NHL to go on our league-wide breakdown. It's the Winnipeg Jets, baby, and 5 players that you probably want on your squad for the upcoming draft season. Let's talk all about it on Friday's show and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, my fantasy fanatics. Happy Friday. Another week down and another week closer to fantasy hockey draft season. That's why you're tapped into your 30-minute source. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down and continuing to make us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. Bucks off your first purchase. Mr. Roden, we did it. 32 teams, every single club's top 5 fantasy targets. It's not always been pretty, but I would say on today's episode, it will be. This Winnipeg Jets club is legit. A lot of really good players, a good offensive unit, and the best fantasy goaltending option in the game. This team should once again contend for top spot in the Western Conference and perhaps tops in the NHL.
Yeah, they really should. And even with the loss of Nikolai Ehlers and Carolina Hurricanes gaining him this offseason, I think there's still a lot of value in the top 6 group, even on the blue line. And of course, the number 1 fantasy hockey goaltender in the National Hockey League right now, yes, Connor Hellebuyck, who we will be talking about later in this episode. For me, again, I want to throw some honorable mentions and some love to a few different players here. I'm going to leave Cole Perfetti for you to get googly eye over because that's your boy with along Seth Jarvis and, you know, the Miro Heiskanens of the world. But a guy like Neil Pionk, I still brings ton of value on the blue line for me. I love how he plays the game. He's been very offensive minded the last couple of seasons as well. We've seen him produce in the offensive zone, quarterbacking power plays at time, penalty kill time, whatever it is. I think a guy like Gustav Nyquist, while I don't believe he's going to jump off the page, I think he can be a very good streaming option playing in that top 6 alongside potentially Jonathan Taves and your boy Cole Perfetti. So just a few honorable mentions. I'm not going to go as far. Oh, one last one actually as well, because I love this player as a streaming option. Nino Niederreiter, I think, covers all peripheral categories. I think he's just a very consistent player, and I like what he does. Again, one of those depth guys who you might not be drafting in your leagues. Maybe you take him somewhere in the last couple of rounds, but I think he's a very good streaming option, and I would have him on my team for weeks at time just because of how good he was producing and how consistent he was. So another honorable mention, but at number 5 for me, I had to go with Gabriel Vilardi.
Yes, sir.
The guy who just signed a very good deal in Winnipeg to stay there long term. He wants to play there. He's spoken to the public about how he wanted to be here, and he signs a really good deal, $7.5 million for the next 6-7 years. So Gabriel Vilardi popped off for 27 goals last year. This is 3 consecutive seasons now of 20 plus goals, and this is also a Vilardi that has dealt with some significant injuries, keeping him out of the lineup, yet he's still a really good goal scorer when it comes down to it. Career high 61 points last year. He's just getting into his prime right now at 25, 26 years old. A career high in average time on ice of 18 minutes. He's on that top line with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. He's on the top power play unit with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey. I think if he can stay healthy, there's a potential of 30 plus goals for this player right here and an upwards of 60 to 70 points. Again, the peripherals maybe not jump off the page because of the times he has been injured. Even in 71 games last year, only had 130 shots, 50 blocks, and 21 hits. So those aren't going to jump off the page, but he has offensive prowess. He has the offensive mindset. He's a shoot first player. I like that about his game. He comes in at number 5 for me.
When you look at what this team did in the offseason, Steele, or perhaps what they didn't do, there might be some question marks and some pressure on this core six, the top six forward group, to really carry this team, because at times we've seen them fall short over the past couple of seasons. Yeah, they put together great regular seasons. Connor Hellebuyck looks unstoppable. And then for some reason, maybe it's too many shots on net. We know he's been at the top of the league in shots faced. Maybe it's too many minutes. There has been an issue here. So Tanner Pearson, Jonathan Taves, Gustav Nyquist, this team got a lot older and a lot slower. So a lot of pressure, I would say, goes on to even some of these honorable mentions. A guy like Cole Perfetti, thank you for leaving him for me. I want to talk about him. He's lurking still. It's taken a while. The development hasn't been as progressed as we'd like to see. Last year, 50 points, plays a full 82-game season. Do not sleep on Cole Perfetti. For me, he's that perfect end of your draft. You throw a little bone out there. You take him as your last forward. That's how I'm looking at him. Gabe Vilardi comes in at 5. And you mentioned it, and I think we can move right on. Gabe Vilardi plays with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. That's one of the best top-line trios. That was elite. The Winnipeg Jets, they finished 3rd overall in goals for last season. 277 goals scored. Only the Tampa Bay Lightning and Washington Capitals scored more. So you want a piece of that in a very big way. Both Matt Larkin and NHL.com Steele, since we've been bringing them up a lot, had Vilardi ahead of Josh Morrissey just slightly, but I think you nailed it. The injuries and Josh Morrissey's value as a point-producing D-man, he's got to be higher on the list, and he comes in at number 4 for me. A really good player that I would say, along with Kyle Connor, sometimes doesn't get nearly as much love as he should. 62 points. I'm not putting those two in the same category, by the way. Just kind of comparing that they don't get enough credit. Last season, 62 points, 113 block shots. The hits were down, but this guy has also been durable. Another reason why he's got to be ahead of Vilardi. Sure, he's missed a couple of games here and there, 79, 78, 81, and 80. I'm going to take that from a blue liner that plays 24-plus minutes, Steele, and quarterbacks the top power play unit. That is a good one.
Just to reel back there, did you say Vilardi is ahead of Josh Morrissey?
I'm pretty sure they had him on NHL.com, so I'll bring it up. They had Vilardi at 70th or something, and I believe Morrissey was lower. I'm going to check that again, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I'm currently looking at the Daily Faceoff Top 300 Matt Larkin's list. Gabe Vilardi was coming in between. I believe he was 162nd. Josh Morrissey is ranked 52nd on this list. So
on NHL.com, Gabe Vilardi is at 75th. Josh Morrissey, 87th, which is a huge mistake.
Yeah, that is a massive mistake from NHL.com on this ranking. But on Matt Larkin's list, Morrissey is definitely ranked 52nd. And Gabriel Vilardi is ranked like 160.
Different lenses and formats obviously impact these.
Massive
food for thought. Morrissey
massive
at 4.
Gap between Morrissey and Vilardi. I also went with Josh Morrissey at the number 4 spot. I actually do believe this ranking, having him at 52nd is a little bit high as well. And you and I have talked about this over the last couple of seasons, that we believed and we projected that there would be a regression in Josh Morrissey's offensive production. We have seen that. He had a career year, outlier year, in my opinion, of 76 points in 78 games. He dwindled down a little bit the next year, 69 points in 81 games, and now 62 points in 80 games. So it has been regressing to where I believe he has been a more perennial player and point producer over the last couple seasons. I think we continue to see somewhere between 55 to 65 points for Josh Morrissey. Exactly. I don't believe he is a 70-plus point defenseman, but he still brings the peripheral categories that you love to see. Anywhere between 170 and 190 shots on net, anywhere between 100 and 120 blocks across the entire season as well. Somewhere between 50 to 100 hits as well, depending on how physical he's willing to get on the year.
Yep.
Yeah, so when I look
at, have played a little bit of a factor there too.
Yeah, like a little bit. He's been pretty healthy the last.
He's just a warrior. He seems to be playing with injuries a lot. Sorry, not to cut you off.
I mean, I don't think he really has actually. He's been healthy. I think over the last, even go back to the beginning of COVID year, I think he's missed a total of 8 games in the last 5-6 seasons. So he's been very durable and very healthy actually over the last 5 seasons. Josh Morrissey, again, He's the number one quarterback on the power play unit. He's going to log heavy minutes. He contributes in those blocks, in the shots, assists, power play points. He is pretty decent for multi-category leagues, again, depending on how physical he wants to get. Still somewhat an underrated defenseman in fantasy circles.
Yep.
But I truly believe he's somewhere, again, you're more typical of putting up 55 to 65 points. I would project him to be somewhere around there and draft him, somewhere in the 7th round.
This is a player past 3 seasons, 5th in Norris voting, 7th in Norris voting, and then this past year, 4th in Norris voting. I'd be fine if I have him on my team still because he's got one of the best goaltenders in the game, the best fantasy goaltender in the game, backing him up. That helps your numbers as a blue liner quite clearly. Let's help your numbers as a fantasy GM. The rest of August, 3 episodes a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll have a couple of mock drafts in there, a couple of special guests. Steele and I will get to breaking down all the angles you need to make sure your team is at the top of the table. Next season, right after the break, more Winnipeg Jets talk. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Ever decided a last minute you want to go down to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you realize you need to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. The easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you're splurging on food, drinks, or even better, how about merch? Come with a big group. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop closer you get to first pitch, and their incredible last-minute deals, their clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets as well with Gametime. Download the app today. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden. And Flip, to me, I got to be quite frank. This list was very easy to me.
Yes.
The top 5 was pretty much just aligned perfectly based on what happened last season.
Sure.
And at number 3 comes Mark Scheifele.
Yep.
Again, very easy decision for me. I think when you look at Mark Scheifele and what he brings to the table, he's a very high IQ player. He can get a little bit dirty at times, so that is good for banger leagues and penalty minutes. Centers the top line. He's on the top power play. He's got very strong chemistry, of course, with Kyle Connor and Gabriel Vilardi when he was in the lineup and healthy. He's great for assists, goals, total points all around. This very solid goal scoring upside to his game. He gets high time on ice of 20 minutes a night at times, and he's just trusted in all situations. So when you look at his profile, he's a high floor top 6 center. Again, in strong point leagues, posted a career high. And I think this is where we really have to look into it about where you feel comfortable taking these next 2 players, and Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, because they're both coming off career years. 87 points in 82 games for Mark Scheifele. He has been really healthy over the last 3 seasons for the most part, but do you believe that this is going to continue? Do you believe he's going to get close to 90 points again? Do you think he's going to regress a little bit? I look at Mark Scheifele and where he is currently ranked on this list, and again, I'm a little bit shocked. I would probably have Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey switched in their rankings. Morrissey ranked at the 52nd spot. Mark Scheifele actually ranked at the 78th spot. I would flip those 2 guys, and I think that would be more realistic in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree, but I also can't disagree, and I'll tell you why. When I look at Kyle Connor's career year, I have far more confidence in that not being an outlier, that we might be really building towards something seriously special with Kyle Connor, where I look at Mark Scheifele, and yeah, he had an 84-point season.
Morrissey and Mark Scheifele's ranking, not Kyle Connor.
Apologies. Yeah, at the end of the day, for me, Mark Scheifele has been one of those guys. And by the way, thank you for reeling me in as always. Mark Scheifele has been one of those players in the fantasy circle that really doesn't get the shine or kind of respect that I think perhaps he should. However, next year is another case of this team should return to that same elite offensive output, in my opinion. Can you expect 90 points? I would say probably not. Does he fall back to that 70, 75 point realm and then it might be more into your angle? I agree with you. You still get some peripheral love. So what I'm trying to say is I would be okay taking Mark Scheifele ahead of Josh Morrissey, but however your team is built, that's what it really comes down to, in my opinion. At the end of the day, though, he had 11 game-winning goals last season as well, Steele. 180 shots on net. I want to see what this team can do at the start of the season. They've gone out with a whimper the last couple. This guy is going to need to be counted on once again. I'm going to take him around the 6th round.
Yeah, I think again, I think I would take him maybe a little bit earlier somewhere. Again, they were splitting hairs a little bit here,
Yeah,
but I would probably take Scheifele in the mid to late 5th round. Again, early 6th round if he drops there. I think you're getting a ton of value. At number 2, again, very easy for me. Kyle Connor comes in at the number 2 spot here. Career year, 97 points in 82 games. You look at the year coming off a career high, 41 goals, 56 assists. Top line sniper with elite shot volume and accuracy, putting up anywhere between 15 to 16% in shooting percentage. He's a staple on the power play 1 unit with Scheifele and Morrissey, of course. And he fills a lot of categories. Excellent for goals, shots, power play points, and again, game-winning goals as well with some clutch factor. He's been very durable as well over the last few seasons. I know he put up 65 games played 2 years ago, but besides that, he has been very healthy when it comes to his time on ice as well. Again, just an elite left winger. They have him ranked here. 39th overall. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think it could be a little bit higher. I think it could be a little bit higher than 39.
Yep.
I'm not saying that I would draft this player. Again, it depends on how many teams are in your league. If you're in a 16-team league, then you're getting close to that 39th where it becomes a little bit more accurate. But 10, 12, 14-team league, I would probably be taking him somewhere between the 25th pick and the 32nd pick.
This guy also gets it done shorthanded, Steele, chipping in with a couple of shorties last year. That's what elite speed does. You and I throw out the overrated, underrated, not enough shine, all of these adjectives and descriptors because it really does sometimes hold true. It doesn't hold any more true than with this player. Kyle Connor in any other market, and perhaps maybe that's some of it, in any other market is already a superstar. I really do think, and I did some digging into his numbers. I read this little stat here on sportsforecaster.com. I can't take the credit for it. He has never scored fewer than 25 goals since entering semi-pro hockey at 15 years old. He's been scoring goals at an elite level since basically playing organized puck. And I really do like this player, Steele. And headed into next season, don't forget, I mentioned the shorthanded love. How about the power play love? This is the best power play unit in the NHL last season, clicking at almost 29%. That is going to sometimes win you your week. You take a look at power play goals for Kyle Connor. He had 9 power play goals, 19 power play assists, and I can see that number going up. Love me some Kyle Connor. You definitely want yourself a piece of this Winnipeg Jets top 5. Maybe if you get lucky, Steele, you get 1 or 2, and your team is anchored very nicely, especially if you get the number 1 guy on this list.
Yeah, speaking of the number 1 guy, Connor Hellebuyck, the best fantasy hockey goaltender you can get going into your fantasy hockey draft. Coming up next on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Smash that subscribe button, follow button, and leave the 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden. Over to you, my friend. Connor Hellebuyck comes in at the number 1 position. There was no debate here. There's going to be no argument at this time with this spot. Connor Hellebuyck is the number 1 option from the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes, sir. And the only other notable back-to-back Vezina winners, Jacques Plante, Dominic Hasek, Martin Brodeur, Connor Hellebuyck. Those are the cream of the crop when it comes to goaltending all time. And that's what we're looking at, I think, here, Steele. And unfortunately, the team hasn't gotten it done around him. And yeah, we've seen those playoff numbers. At times he can struggle too. But if we're talking about fantasy and regular season, this guy's a cheat code. You want him. If you're not employing the 0G strategy and you are going to take a shot at a goalie early, it's Connor Hellebuyck and everybody else. And, a couple of years ago when Shesterkin was going crazy, my boy Sorokin was out there doing his thing, Vasilevsky, we could talk. We could have the conversation about the top few goaltenders. I don't think we can have that anymore, Steele. It's 1A, and then it's the other tier, and then there's probably a third and fourth and whatever else. Connor Hellebuyck last season leads the NHL once again in games played, 63. Leads the NHL with 47 dubs, 8 shutouts, a 2.00 goals against. Credit due to that blue line. You mentioned Neil Pionk. Sandberg's a really good underrated D-man. DeMello, they don't jump off the page fantasy-wise, but they are tough to play against. And then you throw in Hellebuyck, and this team is nasty in the defensive end. Hands down, slam dunk, number one fantasy option at the position. We don't say that with confidence all the time. He deserves it. He has been sensational. And if he goes back to this form, Steele, I think you're probably just fine investing in this player, mid to second round.
Yeah, I mean, I've always urged to stay away from drafting goaltenders in the first round, and I typically wait until at least the third or fourth to get my number one guy. But Connor Hellebuyck is really in a tier of his own, and he's the only goaltender that can and should be drafted in the first round. If you're going to take a goaltender in the first round, it has to be Connor Hellebuyck, and even then, I think you should probably wait. Yep. But even if you do, I'm not going to fault you for it because you're pretty much just setting up your goalie stats or your those categories, whatever format you're in, for success. Mm-hmm. You're just setting it up for later in the season. Again, this has been 4 consecutive seasons now of 60 plus games played and 60 plus games started for Connor Hellebuyck. Back-to-back seasons with the Vezina, his 3rd season in his career winning the Vezina as well, where he's always been in the top 4 rankings or top 4 ratings as well for the trophy. He is, to me, the number one guy. I've been saying this for years now. There's really no comparison. There's no close. There's no tier where anyone else is in with Connor Hellebuyck. Workhorse of a goalie, like you said, elite in wins, save percentage, shutouts, sees a lot of pucks as well. A really good, strong defensive team in front of him, which has just been very consistent. Again, doesn't jump off the page fantasy-wise, but they are going to do everything they can to help Connor Hellebuyck out in those games. So, number one guy for me, Connor Hellebuyck. He's the only goaltender that should be getting drafted in the first round. I know Igor Shesterkin is the next goalie, the next highest ranked goalie on these lists, ranked 18th right now. So he would be falling just into the early second round. Again, I would suggest to stay away from goaltenders as much as possible in the first few rounds of your fantasy hockey draft. Load up on the blue line, load up on the offensive side of things as well. There's going to be a lot of goaltenders who will bring a lot of value later into your draft.
I'd be good with Shesterkin, Gustafsson, Sergei Bobrovsky even. How about Anthony Stolarz, Linus Ullmark, Dustin Wolf? You want to hang around and wait for maybe a Dustin Wolf, Ilya Sorokin combo, or get a little bolder, perhaps, Steele, wait a little longer, rock out with a Lucas Dostal, Jeremy Swayman situation. It could be a little spicier. I'm excited to talk back to more angles that we're going to cover. We've done all the top 5s. I'm excited to talk about some different angles. Like I said, August, we'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then back to 5 episodes a week for September's Full Court Press. Let's get after it, Mr. Roden, as we always do.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NHL Podcast because there is no off season. They are bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter the most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And once again, from your boys here, we wish you good luck with those summer bets on FanDuel. Let us know what you've been cooking up on the comment section below in the YouTube channel, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Peace.